Welcome to English Podcasts. Relax and enjoy your listening practice. There was a time when the human mind could settle like a quiet lake at dawn, still, reflective, patient. But today, the silence rarely lasts. Somewhere between the glow of our phones and the endless pulse of notifications, many people have begun to ask the same uneasy question. Have we lost the ability to focus? It feels that way. You open a message, then switch to another tab. A thought appears, and before it finishes forming, something else pulls your attention away. A notification, a headline, a flicker of curiosity, and suddenly, the moment is gone. For years, headlines have warned that our attention spans are collapsing, shrinking until they resemble something almost absurd. At one point, a widely shared claim even suggested that humans now focus for less time than a goldfish. It sounded terrifying. But like many dramatic stories about the human brain, the truth is far more complicated. Because attention is not one thing. It is not one fragile thread that either holds or snaps. It is an entire system, layered, adaptable, and deeply connected to the environment around us. Scientists now describe attention as a collection of different mechanisms, each responsible for how we scan, concentrate, filter, and respond to the world. And yes, some of these systems are changing. Over the past 2 decades, researchers observing digital behavior have found that the average time people stay focused on one screen before switching tasks has dropped dramatically, from roughly 2.5 minutes to less than a minute. At first glance, this seems like a sign of decline, a mind fractured by technology. But the deeper scientists look, the more they realize something remarkable. The human brain is not simply breaking under pressure, it is adapting. Because the modern world does not move slowly, it moves in waves of information, messages, signals, images, data, arriving faster than any previous generation could have imagined. And to survive inside that storm of information, our brains may have learned a new strategy. Instead of staring at one thing for long periods, we scan, we sample, we move rapidly from signal to signal, searching for what matters. In other words, what looks like distraction may also be a form of efficiency, a kind of mental radar. Consider our distant ancestors walking through dense forests thousands of years ago. Survival depended on noticing the smallest changes, a sudden movement in the leaves, a distant sound, the briefest shadow crossing the ground. The brain that quickly shifted attention was the brain that survived. And perhaps, in a strange way, that ancient instinct has returned. Today, the threats are different, but the environment is just as demanding. The modern world asks us to process enormous amounts of information in seconds, and the brain, ever flexible, reshapes itself to keep up. That does not mean the change comes without cost. When our attention fragments too often, deep thinking becomes harder. Multitasking can slow us down, increase mistakes, and leave us feeling mentally exhausted. Yet scientists are increasingly careful about the story we tell ourselves. Because a shorter scanning attention span does not necessarily mean a weaker mind. It may simply mean a different one. A brain that has learned to navigate a landscape of constant stimulation. A brain that filters chaos at extraordinary speed. And perhaps the real challenge of the modern age is not that our attention is disappearing, but that we are still learning how to guide it. Because focus, like a muscle, can be trained, strengthened, reclaimed when we need it most. The human mind has never been static. Across centuries, it has adapted to books, to television, to computers, and now to the endless digital currents surrounding us. And if history tells us anything, it is that the story of our attention is not one of decline. It is a story of evolution. A mind learning, once again, how to survive the world it created. And somewhere within the noise of the modern age, the power to focus is still there, waiting patiently for the moment we choose to use it.